G'day everyone, hope we're all well. Alright, so I'm going to build Tamiya's Brewster Buffalo. This was tooled in 1974, so I'm interested to see how it goes together. Probably no problems, it is Tamiya. So I'm going to do, there's 4 schemes in the box. I'll be doing the box art version, which is Royal New Zealand Air Force from Singapore, late 1941. Doing this one because I like the scheme. I'll be using it's dark earth, dark green over black and sky. So half is black, half is sky. So I'll be using the AK real colour for the sky. So let's get into it. Alright, the scheme I'm doing is scheme A. So during the build, there's some steps that will call out for different parts for which scheme you're doing. So you've got A, B, C, D. I'm doing A, so I have a different seat shape for the one I'm doing. So just pay attention as you go along. I've started cleaning up some parts. So we got fuselage halves, cockpit pieces. We got gun sights, a bit pretty thick on the plastic, but it is what it is and it will do. The backing for the seat, where the seat goes on, has got 2 ejection pin marks that will be seen. So I'm just, instead of doing putty and waiting 24 hours for it to dry, just using a bit of CA glue. That'll dry quickly and I'll sand that back and be good to go. Also, the seat has got moulded in, I might zoom in a bit, harnesses moulded in. They're okay, but I prefer to get rid of them and put in some aluminium foil tape for my harnesses. So I've just got this, I got it off eBay. It was about $30. Charges with the USB. I do have a Dremel, but Dremel revolution is way too fast on the plastic. So just going to grind it out. Alright, you're getting the gist of what I'm doing. So I'm going to keep working that out, then I'll clean it up with some sponge. If there's any, if I go too deep or anything, once the full tape's in, you can cover up if you make a bit of a mess of it, but it should be right. Anyway, so I'll keep cleaning that up. We're going to paint up the interior. Also, Tamiya, as they do quite often when you're using their instructions, they'll call out for mixing paints. So they call the mix 3-part yellow with 5 parts of green, the XF5, but that's just interior green. So I'll be using the US interior green because I assume these would have been shipped out to the British forces, and they just would have painted their camo schemes on the exterior of the aircraft. So that's the colour I'll be using for the interior. Alright, so I've painted up cockpit. I've put in the foil, aluminium foil tape for harnesses. It looks a lot better than the moulded detail that was there. Plus on the seat, originally the harness only went to the seat, where in reality it would go back up to the headboard. I've used the kit decals as the main instrument panel, and there's a panel either side of the fuselage and one in the centre. There's one there as well. And so now, before I glue the seat in and the fuselage together, I'm going to give it a wash. I'm just going to use probably the brown or dark brown Tamiya panel wash, and then when that's dry and I clean it up, I'll glue it together. Alright, so just quick show how I'm doing the panel wash. Just run it. Just run it around, just using a micro brush, and when it's dry I get a cotton bud just to wipe it back, any excess. The same goes for the other parts before we put it together. Alright, apologies earlier, I videoed and missed this. So the ejection pin marks that were on the bulkhead, I used some Zappa Gap, and I got a homemade tool, and I just apply it, run it into the hole. Probably need to do it a couple of times to fill it up, and when it's dry I just sanded it back, and that got rid of the ejection pin marks. Or you can use putty, but I wanted to do it today and not wait around for the putty to dry. Alright, fuselage is together. I've got the wings together, but I'm not going to use the bombs. I'm going to have the wings just plain, so I got to putty up these holes. Just using perfect plastic putty. I've taped it off so I don't make a huge mess around. I'm going to leave this dry overnight so it can shrink back in. That's why I'm going to leave it raised over the holes, so that any shrinkage when I clean it up should be right. I'll continue on with that, and then the wings can go on. Alright, I did that putty and I said the wings can go on, but they can't go on because the floor panel and the yoke's got to go in before that goes on, so I have to paint or put that together, put that in. Instructions have you doing all the undercarriage before you put the wing on, but should be able to do it afterwards, but I'll have to check that carefully before I do that, but I can't see a problem with that. Alright, just going to make an improvement under the tail wheel section here. That's where the actual wheel goes, the center hole, and you got these two other gaps or holes. I can't see in the instructions why they're there. So I've cut a piece of plastic card I'm just going to put that in there. I'll glue that in, and it takes away those gaps, and I've marked the middle with some pencil where I need to drill a hole for the tail wheel. Naturally you're not going to see it, but I'd rather, a couple of little gaps is alright, but big gaps like that, it looks neater like this. With a kit this old, you're bound to get flash from the age of the tooling, and this one on the landing gear, the gear legs, where the mould sandwich, yeah, there's big seam part line both sides and on the round section as well. I've cleaned one up. I've just used, for the flat areas, I've used a scraper, and on the curved, on the round tube sections, just a another form of scraper. There's heaps of different ones you can get. And then I cleaned up with a sanding stick and sanding sponge. So that's how you take care of those big part lines.